Hello, this is the San Francisco Open Mic Poetry Podcast TV show with John Rhodes and Clara Sue. And today we have on Diane Moomey, and in my segment and in Clara's segment we have QR Hand. Clara will go into more detail about QR in her segment. Diane has published 3 or 4 books now?
This is the fourth.
This is the fourth
Figure
book.
in a Landscape.
And this is called Figure in a Landscape. And her poems are generally about people and places and the nature of the places. How would you describe that?
It's about the interface between human and nature. Because they're not purely nature poems because the observer is in there. And
they're almost like memories.
In a way, but it's trying to grow a relationship. My efforts to try to grow a relationship with nature and learn
where you are and
my place in
sort of like feng shui or something, maybe.
I love feng shui. Yes, poetic feng shui. That sounds good.
Okay, so I guess we'll cut this clip here now. And we'll move around, and Diane will read her poems.
Hi, I'm Diane Moomey, and I'm reading some poems out of my book, Figure in a Landscape, about the interface between self and nature and my efforts to find my way with that. And the first poem is The Red Hour, located in the town of El Granada near the California coast, where I live now. Not an hour, not truly, not even half. In fact, she nearly missed the whole show by turning seaward, entranced by that westering sun just sliding behind the water. Nearly missed red, hoping to catch the green flash they all talk about. The red hour. Not an hour, though the earth does stop for a breath or two. Stops while the eucalyptus grove on the other side of the coast road turns that Maxfield red, that copper-filled gold so loved when art was still nouveau. Stops while that red sweeps silently from trunk to tops and grays into dust. And she would have missed red, but for a noise from the road behind her, a shout, the slam of a car door, a suddenness that turned her face, frowning, to the east. And there it was. Suburbs. Wild things come down from dry hills to land on roofs, and a ginger cat slinks beneath a hedge. Somewhere in the village, a staple has worked loose from wire netting. Rabbits, restless, rustle their bedding, and wild things come down from the hills, take cover between garage and garbage cans. On a patio, drip lines curve from pot to pot. Celadon frogs cross cracked earth to slide beneath the aspidistra. Roses vine between houses. Black-tailed deer take refuge. Wild things watch from the dark beneath porches. Chickens seek the safety of the street. This poem goes back to a time of living in a farmhouse north of Lake Ontario. Barley, corn. That was the summer we danced naked rings around the silo they never used. Our beads, our smoke. Our rented farmhouse and island, corn waves tickling our shoreline. Danced naked while the growers of corn flew low and dusted. That spring Ralph Palmer and his sons had harrowed up, furrowed down, put 100 acres into barley. It was early, and winter, not knowing its place, returned for 4 days to plunge the red line to 31, to 30, to 29. Barley dies at 28, and on the 3rd day Ralph's heart stumbled and fell. His dog howled all night. That was the summer we ran naked between the corn rows, ate his fingerling ears, thought, it's feed corn, not table corn, thought, the cows won't know if they're a dozen ears short. That's what we thought. Ralph lived on, and so did his barley. That was the summer we danced naked on the lawn, and I wondered when Ralph Palmer had last danced naked on the lawn, before corn drew his life into neat furrows, into terrible furrows. When or if, wondered if corn came to him in his cradle, if barley tapped him on the shoulder at high school graduation and said, come with me, boy. That sometimes happens. Barking all night. They'll bark the stranger bark, those hounds, nip the heels, send trespassers flying, yip the yip of a trodden tail, or a welcome, where the woof have you been all day? They'll bark all those, they will, we will, and wag as well. But then, oh yes, then one day comes the long bark, all night the long bark, baying, savoring the rumble in the throat, the chest. The long bark, Lord save us all from barking the long bark, from giving voice across the winter bare fields, in vacant rooms all night, barking all night because the road is empty and there's nothing else to do. This is a watercolor poem, my other love. Saturday morning. East window, lightly glazed with snail trails, illuminates dust, crumbs, a week's debris, glitters on car keys beside the back door. Finches argue over the last of the Niger seed. Need I reply to these? Water is waiting. Water and the whitest of paper, thick and soft, as is the brush of dark hairs and round handle. Beside these, fresh pots of yellow, of red, of the bluest of blues in which might be found the exact russet of the grosbeak's breast. Brushes are waiting. The sun in the east window gives light for this. And I'd like to finish up with one of my favorite poems. When I am old, I will live in the redwoods, in mist and deep green shade. My lover will be with me. Two ancients, we will build a treehouse of woven bark. Bats will hang head down in the shadows above. Or, when I'm old, I will live by the southern ocean, in a round house with seagrass for a door. I'll build it myself. I shall eat kelp. A gray cat will live with me, a very old gray cat. He will be indifferent to the seabirds that walk upon my skin. I'll lie by the water's edge each day and mark the new year by the return of gray whales from the north. Thank you.
Hello, and thank you, Diane, for your poetry. I'm going to read one short poem by Leonard Irving. He's an old guy who lives here in the Bay Area, he has lived here in the Bay Area, and he used to hang out in the open mics. I don't know whether he's still alive or not, but I think he travels.
He just passed.
Oh, he just passed. Okay, so my host told me that Leonard just passed. But anyway, at least I get to say a prayer for him too. So he is Scottish, and he used to travel back and forth between Scotland and here. And this poem is dedicated to the Obama family. And I do a lot of research in DNA. And back when Tipton, Indiana was a whistle stop where everybody was related, we both had a dozen families who lived in the same little town. And we probably relate. And when I say probably, I'm pretty sure, but I wouldn't say that unless and I think what's wrong with the world is there's all these little mysteries going on, with this Trump thing, and they're trying to tear us down, and I just want to say that. And this poem is called Driving Through a Scottish Village. The driver paused to allow 7 goslings, resembling small scrubbed girls in Sunday best dresses, stepping as do geese in single file, to cross to the other side of this lost country road, and for a moment it seemed that all mists of Scotland appeared, to pause and watch and wait as we did in the Stone Age village beneath the shoulder of a gaunt, heathered hill, ancient as snow, with the earth arrested, in time upended, then we drove on. And thank you, and Clara Sue will be next.
Hi, this is Clara Sue, co-hosting with John Rose for the San Francisco Open Mic Poetry Podcast TV show. And today I have QR Han as my guest. And QR is going to read to you right now because he needs no introduction. So here we go, QR Han.
If there's such a thing, I'm kind of an urbanist. That's not quite an objectivist, and we'll go from there. Postmodern stew for the ages. Aquarian age apocalypse now, Armageddon at a snail's pace. What used to be called Chinese water torture. Round and round she goes, where she stops, nobody knows. At the Palestinian grocers, a Southeast Asian man speaks of the circumstances of eating the heart of a child. Better than napalming one, I hear myself saying. I didn't press him for his circumstances. I feel I already know too much. Is this denial? Part of this town and others for the spirited sisters of Carnival. Sun getting warmer, crowd still coming, dancing, blood going on and on. This tail end of bacteria caught up in the high of a long-distance drummer running on hands and sticks, left the sneakers in the dusts. Electricious garb resplendent in the sun of the mission, 'cause she's a metaphysical gal. She sees the murder of Crazy Horse over and over, makes conversations that got nothing to do with the finer self she's hiding amongst her big, fine, and loud lyricisms, shaking it all the time. He thinks Haiti's got problems too. Leaves a Valencia Street peacock in quizzical dementia breakout with her cease and desist orders. God, not shit, baby. These moving picture are disaster. We needs to stop. Ain't no going back to bikini now. She be with the samba de Corazao, her mind photojournals, 360 degrees of distortions. She be saying, stop this pretense. This should be just a drunken real. And she be shaking it all the time. Sounds of Pete Escobedo and his band. Sun going down in soft evening air. Winds starting up. Troubles in the people stew. Kids making moves in dust swirls, then cops, both all over. 'Cause she's a metaphysical gal, and she be shaking it all the time, breath and muscles mattering. Disembodiment speaks, embraces no issue. That I am commanded to love beyond comfort, self and other, even who would kill the child. She be saying, you're gonna tell me you love me or die with the secret. This a conversion by the sword, sweetie. You're not the first man to be wronged. Victim. She be saying, like the man said, this a tale from the hood. Chill or be chilled out. And in another part of time, another part of town, lady, I haven't eaten in 2 days, it was said. And then it was heard, my good man, you must force yourself to eat. Sounds of chiselers chiseling means statues and deficits are on the way, but death. I did a lot of stuff having to do with the Mission District in San Francisco, where I lived and worked for many, many years, and really enjoyed the place. It was the closest place to the good-spirited end of what was called the ghetto in Manhattan that has so much life to it, which is kind of partly where I grew up. So anyhow, so that spirit is both on the east and west coast, a lot of places in between too. Our hemisphere, Afro-Carib, Latin, hillbillies, Semitic, Hamitic, semi-Dravidian natives who might have come from India and sure enough being the Indies here. Those carrying glyphics to the New World, whose old dwellers take to the hills still and teach us to worship there. Black and brown and golden and peach pink, urban populace, left-winged, anarchistic, universal, quack versus color-coded, god-headed, new world peoples of every shade there is, and we're making more every day. A class containing classes, the X's and Y's of manifesting humanities, becoming the music of the world containing all, excluding none. Let the Klan and the Nazis go back. We home here now. Us folks are the peoples who look towards the sea, vision and memory, past, perfect futures are strewn about our musics like seaweeds on the shore. Our eyes, hearts affired, dancing on limbs aghast and bedazzled, caressing these sands, hand-clapping spirits. Our souls are numberless like bands of the spectra. Our hues are numberless. Jump back, brothers. See our sisters prancing on the sea, their curves and spheres rounding off the edges of the sands, making sheets of molten glisten. We are evocations of this sweet liquid strumming on these vibrant far reaches, on our faithful shore, this ritual clamor. We are on this shore, spelling out the seasons of reason. Numberless beings grow gills, sprout wings, drunken on the bottom of pink coral reef, then leap the sea, sailing easy to afar, to a star. We are stoned reflections of, to view from there, these sands, who do not know they are us. Not these sands, our foundations on these wheels of things, rolling shore, surf washed, waves yearn to roll in murmurs on. These grits are relentless too, in changing forms, numberless, pastel and pale yellows, mixed by the sea, wind, the sun, our constant companions on this sphere, on this beachhead here, on our minds. And communal heart molds sands into cities and ports to welcome from the sea more ancestors, to play on this shore notes of universal hide. Seek time. Here is numberless. We've known not its name. We are the growth here. We are the trees. We are the creatures here. So it is said, on which cosmic bet no wages subsist. Numberless are the names of this life on these sands, on the dream washed up on these shores. Us folks are on, the peoples who look towards the sea. Looking towards the sea, our songs are the bread of the shore, our spirits, our spawn. On these quicksands we name ourselves numberless. A little quickie thrown in. This State of the Union, I found this in these blues, times, tunes. Beats me to death, can't tell you why she ain't with me, this land of my heart. I'm going to do one more. A poem for those who didn't make it this winter, whose bones were left in a pile of long waits, washed away in a rain of official acids, whose eyes rolled like minstrels, sick with St. Vitus dance and electronic furies that tap into brain cells and nuts, for those who didn't make it this winter, who choked vomiting jagged alphabets of steel and cindered kidneys, swallowing gorges of white heat, who'd violated the Iron Maiden's penetrating questions, looked the Grand Inquisitor right between his wise, then shit on the floor of the Palace of the Golden Skulls. For us who didn't make it this winter, who waited alone in frayed trousers, shot up with the Gibbons diatribes in alleys of narrow metals, whose eyes saw only indivisibly frozen stiff, whose hearts were cubed for further researches, and whose family trees were bent over to receive the detectives' probings. For those who didn't make it this winter, screaming the time of pain has come again to warn the others, as stilts were screwed where their legs used to be, and multimedia infusions were jammed into their arteries. They heard the call of all of their fathers ever for those who didn't make it. Their mothers, brothers, sisters, for those who didn't make it this winter, for those. And for us, Babylon must fall. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you, Q.R. Han, for your reading. I would like to end my segment with a poem titled The Constitution of Rain. As the view blurs, a man pisses openly in the street with his pants down. The philosopher asks, "What is the constitution of rain?" and goes off into another world. Hot mist rising from the sidewalk, one that has no need for ears or tongue or body or color. Only colorless object may exist in isolation. One that is as detached as a popped cap from a bottle. Purity that contains impurity. Impurity that is seemingly pure. She walks in her rain boots and jacket, hood and umbrella and gloves. Not a drop of rain touches her skin. Waiting for the bus, she watches the back of another man as the rain forms pearls on his sweatshirt. Squeezing body against bodies, when the bus stops, she loses her footing and falls on a girl. "I'm sorry," the philosopher apologizes. But the girl is unmoved. Thank you very much for tuning in. My name is Clara Sue, co-hosting with John Rose for the San Francisco Open Mic Poetry Podcast TV show. See you next time.
All right.